Good morning. Today is the 18th of Kislev, the 1st of December, and we're just one day before the 19th of Kislev, which is called the Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year of Chassidus. And really what it means is that on this day we celebrate the approbation from above, that the way that the Alter Rebbe, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the way he taught Chassidus was accepted from above, that it should be in a way that people can understand, and the inner teachings of the Torah should be something that's comprehensible and not just something that is a secret type of teaching that only certain individuals can get into and try to comprehend. What a fitting day it is today to look at the final Aliyah. We're going to look at the 7th Aliyah of Vayishlach. And it's almost it's almost surprising that this is such a big deal, this reading, the 7th reading. It tells all about the family of Esau. But after all that we've introduced during the week, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that Esau represents chaos and great lights, great power. And as we explained also, this is the type of energy that preceded the world of rectification. It came before the world that we live in now. And it just becomes the center of all of Rabbi Isaac Luria's Kabbalah. And this is really interesting because there wasn't really a hint of this before the Arizal, before Rabbi Isaac Luria. Nobody really made such a big deal out of these descendants of Esau, and especially the 8 kings that ruled in the kingdom of Edom, in the kingdom of Esau, before there was a king of Israel, before Saul, the first king of Israel. One of the hints that this is important is that there are only 2 places in the entire Pentateuch that we find 3 verses that have the same length. The one place that was known and was discussed in early Kabbalah was in Parshat Vayishlach. We'll probably look at it when we get there. There we have 7 verses with 72 letters, 3 verses with 72 letters each. And from that we get what is called the name of 72. In 72 there are triads, triplets of letters, one from each of the verses in order, and one of them in reverse, the middle one in reverse. And this becomes a very, very important staple for all of the early Kabbalah, before Rabbi Isaac Luria. Here we have 3 verses that have exactly 31 letters. 31 is a very interesting number in and of itself. In our context, what's important about it is that they represent the 31 kings listed at the end of Joshua. Actually, not at the end. I think it's chapter 6, where these were the 31 kings that Joshua had to conquer the land of Canaan at the time. And so these 31 letters appear in 3 consecutive verses that have the same number. And these 3 verses are in the middle of the statement about the kings of Edom. The kings of Edom you'll find, actually, in chapter 36. They begin in, by mistake, this is a chance occurrence, verse 31. Okay, and these are the kings of Edom who reigned in Edom before there was a king of Israel. And the first one, his name is Bela ben Beor, and his name of the city is Dinhava. I'm going to say their names because I want you to notice something about them. The second one, he dies, Vayamod Bala, and Bela died, and he was succeeded as king by Yovav, son of Zerach, from Botzra. And Yovav died, and he was succeeded as king by Husham, from the land of the Temanites. Husham died, and was succeeded as king by Hadad, son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the field of Moab. Hadad died, and he was succeeded as king by Samla, from Masreka. Samla died, and he was succeeded as king by Saul. This is not King Saul of the Jews. This is King Saul of Esau, who was from Rehovot on the river. Saul died, and he was succeeded as king by Baal Hanan, son of Achbor. Baal Hanan, son of Achbor, died, and he was succeeded as king by Hadar, and the name of his city was Pau. His wife's name was Mehitavel, daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahav. So, the three verses 32, 33, and 34 all have 31 letters. And I said this is a very interesting thing. Now, you may know that many of the verses in the Pentateuch are repeated again in the Bible in different places. Most of them, the ones that are repeated in Chronicles. Now this seems like a very, like I said, it seems like a backshed description. Who cares about the kings of Edom? Why is it so important? But when we look to Chronicles, we see that this list appears in the first chapter of Chronicles, along with the succession of humanity. Meaning that Ezra, the scribe who authored Chronicles, who wrote a historical version of the Pentateuch, not historical in the sense that ancient history even was, but historical in the sense that he was looking at what are the historical lessons to take from the Pentateuch. He put it in the first chapter of Chronicles, of First Chronicles, meaning he thought this was very important. The question is, why is it so important? What's going on here? So, like I said, all of Kabbalah from Rabbi Isaac Luria and on focuses on this section of the Torah. And again, it's almost mind-boggling. Why is this? But let's look at two basic features. The first feature is that all these kings, it says they reigned and they died. They reigned and they died. They reigned and they died. Meaning they had sovereignty for a while and then they died. It's not common to give a list like that and to say they died because, well, we know the kings die. They're human like everyone else. So why do you have to tell us this? So Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, he understands that this is talking about what we call the world of chaos. In the world of chaos, every king, and a king here is like a sephira, it's like a divine emanation, reigns supreme for a little bit of time, and then it comes off the scene. It disappears. And then something else takes its place. In the world of chaos, there is no cooperation between the different forces. They can't find a way to cooperate. And so what happens is that each one finds and bids for his time, and when he's finished, and that is the, on the one hand, the superiority of the world of chaos, that there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of self-confidence in each one of these forces, each one of these kings, which represents one of the forces in the world of chaos, that they can do everything by themselves, and then it always ends in tragedy. They die, they can't carry the day by themselves, they actually needed other people to help them. There is no cooperation yet. There is no ability to cooperate because there's no ability to have nullification. That's the main thing that the Hasidic way of thinking added to this concept of the world of chaos. Now, it's important to remember that Kabbalah is not describing something that happened in the far past. It's describing something that we all have within us. And we've talked about this in the past, that the teenage years, from 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, are years of the kings of chaos. One might even say that it's exactly 8 years long, maybe, from 12 or maybe 13 to 19. During those years, we all live in the world of chaos. We don't yet know how to create coherency between the forces of our soul, but rather each force takes us in a different direction, and we can't find peace and quiet yet. And it's very hard for us to find exactly what we need to do. But we need those years, in the same way that these kings of Edom, these kings of the world of chaos, they're needed because they create the energy which later has to be brought back to life. It has to be resurrected in a sense. So each one of these kings, he dies, but later on he's resurrected. And the way he's resurrected is, in a person's life, is that when you reach adulthood, and you begin to think about, okay, so these are my talents, these are my abilities, how do I bring them all together to bear on the task at hand, what I need to do in my life, my mission, that's when you bring them back to life. But I want to notice one other point. None of these kings are said to have had a wife. The only one that has a wife is the 8th king. The 8th king's name is Hadar. And here it says, and Baal Hanan ben Achbor died, and in his place there reigned Hadar, and the name of his city was Pau. There were many of them that had the name of their city, but here it says, and the name of his wife was Mehitavel, daughter of Matred. Suddenly we have someone who is married. All the 7 kings before them were not married. But then comes the Arizal, comes Rabbi Isaac Luria and points to something very important about this. It doesn't say about Hadar that he died. It doesn't say that. It just says that he reigned. And then it ends. His wife's name was Mehitavel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahav, and that's the end. He never dies. From this, he learns something incredible. And he says, the reason that they are forces of chaos is because they don't have a feminine side. They're not able to wed. They're not able, like we said in Chassidus, this is explained as, they're not able to have self-nullification. To be wed, to be married, a person has to have self-nullification. To be in a relationship with another human being that are so intense as marriage, that is so close, so demanding, creating so much need for responsibility and commitment, a person has to have tremendous self-nullification. When you have tremendous self-nullification, and that's what you need in order to live with your spouse, then you don't shatter and die. And indeed, the 8th king, says the Arizal, he's the beginning of the world of rectification. Why is he rectification? Because he already has a state in which he is married, he is able to create a relationship that stands, that holds, and that prevents him from shattering and falling down and breaking. There's one final, we could speak about this literally for days and days. There's so much about it. But one small gematria, which is so beautiful, that when you add the name of the king, the 8th king, Hadar, and his wife, Mehitavel, which by the way has become, in the last decade or so, a more and more popular name in Jewish circles, because more people are learning Kabbalah and they understand the meaning of this woman. There's a lot of meaning to it. I won't be able to say much except that her name is equal to time together. Zman, Meitavel equals time. She gives him the dimension of time. But also Ma and Ban, the two important fillings of God's name that equal 45 and 52, together 97, the value of Meitavel. But when I add Meitavel to the name of the 8th king, Hadar, the husband and wife team, together they equal to Isha, woman. And the meaning is exactly what the sages say, that everything comes from the woman. In other words, if there is no connection, and we spoke about this when we talked about in Noach, I believe, or maybe at the end of Bereshis, we talked about the degeneration of humanity, that the degeneration becomes complete when Lemech treats his wives as if they're property, as if there's something like that. So the opposite happens when there is respect and an understanding that everything actually comes from the woman. And the ability to be alive, the ability to succeed in the world, all these things depend on one's wife. And as long as one is not married, he, as the sages say, he is without blessing, he is without a wall defending him. He's lacking these things that make life livable. So with this, wish you everyone Shabbat Shalom. Hope to hear good news and to see you next week when we start Parashat Vayishlach, which is also a very, very interesting parsha with the story of Joseph and his brothers. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.